You made this statement, and I'd like for you to go ahead with it, because I've read your writings on this, and this is something we really, really do in our day and age. We need some depth in this. That there are certain things that are absolute, and without God's standard, you don't have any idea what they are. And yesterday you said there are some things that are absolutely right and don't ever change, and there's some things that are absolutely wrong and don't ever change. And I thought when you said that, yeah, and we need to know what they are and settle it forever, don't we?
We do. Our founding fathers even understood this when, in the early documents, you see the writings of a Thomas Jefferson, who says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And the key word, inalienable. Inalienable, no one can take them from us. Nobody can alienate us from these rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Two things come to bear. The founding fathers understood that our rights are not a government gift. They did not come because men assembled and said, we're going to pass a law and we're going to give people rights. The rights that we have are inherent, and they are really the very treasure that God gives to us as a human being. They're inalienable in that nobody has the right to take them from us. What sometimes is called natural law, that sense that it doesn't matter whether we've ever sat in a classroom and been schooled in it. We know inherently that it's wrong to murder somebody. You don't have to say, is it wrong to murder somebody? Even the most way out person wouldn't say, well, it depends on the situation. Now, true murder is wrong, and everybody can agree to that. When we come to the place where we start deciding that some things are right under certain conditions but not under others, that's the whole idea of moral relativism, where we start making excuses. And it's like it was in the time of Judges, where everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That results in chaos. I tell you a great little story that happened when my oldest son, he's now 31, when he was 12 years old. We went out for a couple of hours and took the two smaller ones with us. He didn't want to go, and we let him stay. When we came back, he had baked a cake. And I was pretty impressed, because he was not exactly the kind of kid that normally would do things like that for the rest of us. And he said, Dad, I want you to have a piece of the cake. I said, son, I'd love to. And I was rehearsing in my mind. I was going to tell him how good it was and how nice it was for him to do that. Sure. So he brought me a piece of the cake. I put it in my mouth, and first thing out of my mouth wasn't words of affirmation. It was the cake. Because it was the worst tasting. I thought the boy was trying to kill me. I just knew his mother had said, well, man's got a lot of life insurance on him. We're going to get rid of it. But the look on his face said that it was as big a surprise to him. I asked him, I said, son, did you use a recipe? Yes, sir, I did. I said, could I see it? He went and got it. I looked at it. It looked like a typical recipe. I said, son, did you follow this recipe? Are you sure you did? He said, well, yes, sir, I did. He said, now, Dad, there was one thing. It called for a dash of salt. I didn't know what a dash meant, but I thought a cup ought to take care of it. Brother Kenneth, he had made a cake with a cup of salt. A cup. Now, if folks want to try making a cake like that, I can tell you, you won't eat it, but if you have cows, they can lick it for a week. But here's what happened. He was sincere. He meant well. He had a good motive, really, and he worked hard. But he made up his own definition of what a dash meant, and the result was a disaster. We live in a culture where people want to make up their own definitions of what family, what life, what faith, what God, what spirit. They want to make up their own definitions. Now, I hear people say, it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you're sincere. Oh, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you work real hard at it. It doesn't matter what you do as long as your intentions are honorable. But the truth is, it matters. The difference between eternity of heaven and eternity of hell. Well, that boy qualified for that whole definition. He was sincere. He was sincere. He worked hard. Yes. Did it with all his heart. That's right. Made the worst cake anybody ever tried. Unselfish act. Truly unselfish. He did it. But the result was a disaster because he made up his own rules. When we make up our rules rather than accept God's rules, we're headed for a disaster. And one of the reasons we see chaos is because we lose that sense of those absolutes being in place.